All right, hey guys, what's going on? This is our WandaVision episode 1 spoiler reaction review. Now, sorry this is coming pretty late, but I've been busy with stuff and I needed to find out exactly what's going on in the show, honestly, because as of this recording, I just found out and watched episode 4, so now I'm kind of in a fair lane as to what exactly is going on, but again, there's like 5 episodes after this, so I'm just going to review each and every episode up until, the series finale and all that. Hopefully get on a weekly basis. But anyway, here's episode 1, which is supposedly, quote unquote, the 1950s era style of sitcom where Wanda and Vision are living the happy life, even though Vision is dead. If you've seen Avengers Endgame, he is, or if you've seen Avengers Infinity War, more than likely, you know that Vision is dead. So how Wanda conjured him back to life, I don't know. And no one really knows as of yet, but I'm assuming that we will find out later. The first thing I want to address is this, and here it is. I am a huge sitcom fan, okay? All the old sitcoms that you probably know of or haven't heard of, I have watched. And I've seen a lot of people like reviewing this episode saying that it's the honeymooners and stuff like that. In actuality, it is not in any way, shape, or form the honeymooners. And I'm going to really dissect this because it got me really, really mad when people are giving this comparison when not knowing what any sitcoms really are. And this is my train of field of expertise, so hey, let's go into this, shall we? And hopefully I'll keep this short and sweet. But anyway, the honeymooners, for all of you who may not know, is kind of like the very early seasons of the Flintstones, especially season 1. Then if you guys seen the Flintstones season 1, it is basically the exact same thing, except it's more quote unquote modern, like the 1950s style of modern, than prehistoric things or whatever. But basically the show is borderline domestic abuse, like the Fred Flintstone character, or the fat guy is threatening to beat his wife a lot, and his wife's like, whatever. And then the Barney lookalike guy, he comes over to his house, and the fat guy and the skinny guy, they try to rip off people to try to make more money for themselves quick. And they always fail, and yeah, that's basically it. This episode is absolutely nothing like the honeymooners at all. In fact, what this episode is, more often than not, it's kind of parroting the Dick Van Dyke Show more often than not. Even through the opening of the show, like that opening theme song, we see Vision kind of going through the ottoman when in fact Dick Van Dyke famously tripped over that in his show. In actuality, this show did not premiere until 1961, so it's not necessarily a 1950s show. It's more like an early 60s show, but people are kind of making that comparison because, hey, it's got to fit into every single decade of sitcom, I guess, so here we are. People are kind of comparing it to I Love Lucy as well, and I still don't think it's necessarily that. The only thing that it's kind of in line with I Love Lucy is the fact that I Love Lucy was a woman-based show. Like the titular character was Lucy. And in this show, Vision and Wanda are kind of the main stars. Wanda a little bit more than Vision, but be that as it may, it's more in line with the Dick Van Dyke Show, which is 1961 through 1966. So there. And I know from interviews that Kevin Feige's a big, huge fan of older sitcoms. And yeah, if be as it may, if he really wanted to, he could have made a more 1950s sitcom, more along the lines of I Love Lucy. He could have done it, but he went toward the more Dick Van Dyke Show kind of thing, which Hey, I'm not blaming him. It's a really decent episode. It actually looks a lot like a Dick Van Dyke Show episode. And yeah, let's actually get into the episode now. So I gotta say, from a visual standpoint, the camera movements, the lighting, everything looks like a 1950s to early 1960s episode of television. It looks immaculate. And as we go, we're probably not going to deal with that, but we're getting out of context here. And I gotta say, first and foremost, after the cinematography and editing style of this show, Elizabeth Olsen, man, my gosh, is she fantastic. She's like completely different from the Wanda that we grown to know and love in the MCU. And now she's like a 1950s style housewife, and she plays it very on the nose. It's very well done. Honestly, she should be looked at for an Emmy. I don't think she will, because this is an MCU thing, and MCU, very rarely do we ever get like a Best Actor nomination for anything. But honestly, with the television nowadays, if they were going to have the 2022, I guess, Emmys tomorrow without anything premiering, I would say put Elizabeth Olsen in that running, because she is spectacular in this show. Paul Bettany's pretty awesome as well. He's playing like a more stand-up person. Like, he's got a head on his shoulders now. He's not like kind of confused and like completely robotic like we see in his, earlier scenes through the MCU. We see him actually concerned. We see him actually like wondering out, what exactly is this world, We're seeing more of his humanity and not necessarily his roboticness, which I really do enjoy. Paul Bettany's done a great job as well. And again, let's go back to the way this show is built, I guess. Like, this episode is, without a doubt, 100% exactly like the Dick Van Dyke Show. It looks very similar. The way the shots are made, very few shots, but it's very, very similar to how the Dick Van Dyke Show was, shot and all that. The editing wise is really well done as well. I mean, even when Wanda's like floating stuff in the air or whatever, they look like they're on strings, which is a very nice detail, because that's how the 1950s, if something was floating in the air, that's the way it would look like. It wouldn't look basically realistic if someone were to float something in the air. It wouldn't look that realistic like in the MCU, like with Captain America's Civil War or something, when she's like floating stuff in the air or whatever. It wouldn't look that realistic. It would look like something that was hanging off of a string, and it looks like exactly like that. So good job to Kevin Feige. Good job to the directors and all those people working on that. Fantastic job. Again, the attention to detail is just beautiful. And actually, the whole plot of this episode, I think, is the pilot of the Dick Van Dyke Show. When Dick Van Dyke is kind of wondering if it's their honeymoon or something, but it turns out it's his boss is coming to dinner with his wife and all that. And he's got to impress them, and his wife, Mary Tyler Moore, gets all confused and thinks, oh, well, this is for us. No, honey, this is for my boss. It's a classic episode of the Dick Van Dyke Show. I remember seeing it. I don't know if it's the pilot. I think it is. Anywho, just a fantastic episode of this show. And also, another thing that differences it from the honeymooners, I'm sorry, I'm not going to get away from this, but another reason is they actually love each other. Every scene that they're with each other or talking with each other, they are in love, man. In the honeymooners, it was very rare where they're actually like in love with each other, or actually showed love between the married couple. But Wanda and Vision, they are madly in love with each other. You can see it all the way through. And of course, we get that awesome commercial that everyone's been picking apart and all that, where we actually do see some color in that little blinking light on that toaster thing, which made people think that may be a remnant of a bomb from Stark Industries, where, Stark killed Wanda's parents and all that, and his brother Pietrov's parents and all that. It could be. I think it is. I would assume that it is. Maybe we'll dive a little bit deeper with every episode after this, because there's like, including the two that I have, the three, I think, that I have to still review, eight more episodes? Yeah, 8 episodes. That we could possibly dive into more about this. So yeah, there it is. Also, we get this very, very creepy, toward the end of the episode, this very creepy scene where this woman is like laughing and trying to keep her composure while saying, help him, which is reminded me of the Twilight Zone, honestly, and reminded a lot of people about the Twilight Zone. But yeah, she's calling out to Wanda saying like, help him, while she's like laughing or something because her husband's choking, and Vision's just like, should I help him? I don't know. Should I? And then Wanda's like, Vision, help him. And all of a sudden he's just like, yo, I'm on the scene. Which gets kind of interesting. Like, is Wanda part of this world? Like, is she controlling every single aspect of this world? And what is up with this? Why are the people kind of weirded out about this, Also, we get Catherine Hahn in her first entrance into the MCU playing like the neighbor, I guess. People have speculated because we've seen trailers for WandaVision that she has this brooch on throughout all the episodes and every single decade of the series and all that. People are suspecting that she might be the witch that kind of trains Wanda into manipulating more of her powers and all that, because it's kind of unstoppable. I don't know quite yet, as of this episode, if that's really the case. I couldn't really tell, but she kind of has some interesting motifs in there. You suspect that it may happen, but you kind of have to watch a little bit more to find out about that. Also, notice in this episode, there aren't any black people or any people of color who have speaking parts, except for that one guy, I guess, who's kind of Vision's workplace friend, who is Indian, I suppose, but he's like barely in it. It gets better. Don't worry, it gets better. But I think that's also kind of a hint at 1950s racism, because if you see a lot of the sitcoms of the 1950s and early 1960s, there aren't a lot of black or people of color characters who have speaking parts in these shows, because they're racist. I don't condone that at all, but I think that's a very interesting detail that they decided to put in. I don't know, give it that more authentic kind of 1950s style characteristic of it. Don't worry, there's going to be people of color having speaking roles in later episodes. Good, okay? They get a little bit better, okay? Don't worry. Also, it ends with Wanda and Vision kind of saying, yeah, you know what? Let's get married. Let's be husband and wife officially. We have rings and all that. And then the end with the hexagon thing, people suspecting that it's sword and all that. And we see the sword logos at the very end with these hands taking notes and all that. What are the hands? Well, we'll kind of figure that out in later episodes. But as of now, that's it for this episode of WandaVision. I really do enjoy this. I just hate the fact that people think that this is I Love Lucy or The Honeymooners based, where it's absolutely not. From everything that's they're making and all that, even down to the crappy cheesy jokes that they say and all that. It's so 1950s, early 1960s cheese that I absolutely enjoy. I gobbled it all up. And of course, we got the Stark references, we got the hexagon references and all that. Just a bunch of stuff. Even more stuff to come in episode 2. So look out for that probably next week. As of this, guys, I am Slam. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll dive into the next episode because I truly love this show, and it gets even better. Don't worry about it. So let's hop onto it, shall we? I'll see you then. Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome to this reaction review of WandaVision Episode 2. Now, this is going to be a spoiler review. If you guys haven't seen it, I highly recommend watching it, but let's be honest, everyone's already watched it, so why should I even tell you to go see. You probably already have. And I thought about a few things after the first episode when I did that reaction review. I'm actually going to split this up into different topics. Like the first topic that I'm going to address for this episode is, what is this episode parodying? Because each episode of this show, more or less, is a reference to another popular sitcom of a decade. And this one, lo and behold, it's Bewitched. Yes, the internet got it right. Good job, ladies and gentlemen. You got it right this time. You got it right. It's not the Honeymooners Dick Van Dyke Show controversy anymore. You got it right. It's Bewitched. Good job, internet. You got one right. Good job. I'm so proud of you. That's sarcasm, but they did do a good job with figuring out. Good job, honestly. But anyway, it's kind of clear cut, the fact that it is Bewitched, because I don't know a lot of other sitcoms, especially 1960s sitcoms, which is what this episode is supposed to be parodying anyway. I don't know many 1960s sitcoms that has this little opening animation where people fly all over the place. That's Bewitched. Also, in reference to Bewitched, this set of the house is very reminiscent of the Bewitched house, which is pretty remarkable, actually. My mom actually watched this with her, and she was like, oh my gosh, that is the Bewitched set. She was so surprised about that. So, I thought that was a pretty interesting Easter egg there. As for plots of Bewitched, I don't think it's in reference to an episode of Bewitched. I could be wrong. I haven't seen Bewitched in a while, so maybe that's nothing's really triggering it for me. But I'm pretty sure that the Bewitched actual series has something like this sometime. I would be highly surprised if they didn't have something very, very similar to this. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are in that age in the 1960s where more people of color, African Americans, and other people were getting more representation, but not necessarily the greatest representation, I guess. And I'm not bashing the show. That's history. I mean, you want to get as close as you can to the original source material without, hurting anybody. Which, let me talk about this, okay? Herb, great addition, okay? He seems very genuine. I don't know. So we haven't seen a lot of him yet, but I'm kind of drawn to him. I kind of like this guy. Sort of a tolerable, no-nonsense kind of guy. He's just like, whatever. I'm just going to let this happen. I like his personality. It's very, very good. Also, we get a character introduction, Geraldine. She's a great actress, okay? Let me tell you something. There's a lot of charisma coming from her in this episode. We don't see a lot of her yet, but apparently, according to sources, even before this episode aired, she is the daughter of Maria Rambeau, who is Monica Rambeau. So those things were kind of, reports that came out before this episode, so yeah. But anyway, knowing that she's going to have a bigger role in this series going forward, she does have a lot of charisma, and I can't wait to see what else she's going to do later down the road. Also, there are some jokes and references to communism, which is a huge 1960s American thing, where people are like, oh, you're a communist, and everyone's just like, oh my gosh, what? Blaze of glory. But yeah, I don't know. That's one of the few corny jokes that I actually did get a laugh at. Not just, little smile or whatever. But that was actually really good. Good job there, Marvel. Good job, writers. You did a good job there. I see you. You did a good job there. All right, on to our second segment. Let's talk about the story and plots. Now, along with the bewitchedness of this episode, we also get a little bit of Pleasantville-ness in here, where we get like this colorful helicopter with the sword logo that's red and yellow, wherein it's black and white in this show. How peculiar. Interesting. In this episode, Wanda and Vision are doing like this magic show to benefit the children, even though through this episode we don't see any children anywhere. We hear a lot of them, and we hear the cult chanting for the children, but we don't see any children, which is also, again, very, very interesting. In fact, the closest thing we actually see to a child is when Wanda absorbs her pregnant pregnancy, I guess. Don't really know how to explain it, but she just all of a sudden becomes pregnant, like already in her third trimester after like a few seconds or something. But yeah, that's the closest thing we see to a kid. And this might be a reference to her wanting kids in real life with Vision and all that because of love. Also, we see Vision kind of wanting to do something with the community watch or whatever and eating some gum and acting all drunk because the gum is lodged in his circuits or whatever, gears. And Wanda having to, cover it up by using some like ropes or mirrors or whatever, and it's cute. It's cute. It's whatever. But then the big things come in. These big two key plot points come in where Wanda and Vision see this beekeeper come out of the sewer, and Wanda's like, "Hell no!" and rewinds it all, and they're like, "What? What the heck? How the hell did she do that? Why did she do that? Who's the beekeeper?" And as preluded to the whole thing, in the beginning, we see the entire world come together in color. Just like a wave, if you will. A wave of beautiful, spectacular color. And they kind of notice it, and it's like, oh, it's really pretty. And then they end with the hexagon shape again. Oh, and also one key plot points. The Randall Park, a.k.a. Johnny Woo, in the MCU, that was a FBI agent in Ant-Man and the Wasp. His voice can be heard through a radio, and Wanda's seen it and is like, what the hell is this? And then all of a sudden they just like click right back to it or whatever, and then everything just keeps on going. Creepy, Twilight Zone-esque, if you will. Also, we get this commercial, which is pretty reminiscent of the 1960s commercials, in which the same guy and woman from the first commercial from the first episode, they're back in this one, and this time they're talking about Strucker watches, which is from Hydra. And Strucker is the guy who experimented on Wanda and her brother Petrov, aka Quicksilver. And oh boy, there's a lot of plot. Let me say what I like about this episode, in which this new segment, what I like about this show. Let's talk about it, shall we? Again, Elizabeth Olsen, fantastic job. She get an Emmy. I mean, she brings it in this episode. There's something sinister kind of going in there bubbling underneath the surface of this character, and we're like, is she in charge of everything, or who is pulling the strings behind this episode and this whole show for that matter? Vision, Paul Bettany, fantastic as well. I mean, I'm basically repeating what I'm saying in the previous episode. They're fantastic, okay? What more can I say? Give them the Emmys. Just give them the Emmys, why don't you? Kathryn Hahn's fantastic as well. I mean, basically repeating everything. The thing is, though, they put more of an emphasis on her. In the first episode, she was kind of like this, oh yeah, this neighbor figure or whatever. But something's kind of stuck out to me and possibly the entire world when they actually analyzed this episode, especially in the intro. Everyone in the intro, when the intro ends, everyone except for Wanda and Vision are outside. But Kathryn Hahn is coming out of like the bedroom. So there's emphasis that she might have more to play in this world and with Wanda than we might think. Also, she's got the brooch on that she got from episode 1. She's still wearing that thing when every other costume is completely different and completely changed from the previous episode. All the characters come from the previous episode. Everything's different. All except Kathryn Hahn's brooch. Very, very interesting. And let's dive into this new segment that I'm going to call Things I Don't Like. There's one thing I don't like about this episode. It's very, very nitpicky, but I don't know. It has to be said. People are going to hurt me for this. I don't care. It's my own personal opinion. Take it or leave it. Here it is. And maybe it's because I'm a sitcom purist, but if you're going to make a parody of Bewitched and you're going to make an episode of a Bewitched series or inspired by a Bewitched series, there's got to be a few less camera cuts. And I get why Marvel did this. They did this because they have this thing where they like overshoot everything and they get it in basically every camera angle they can for good reason. I get that. If I was directing, I would probably get every camera angle I could to maximize profit and maximize time. But what I remember from Bewitched was there wasn't a lot of camera cuts. Like in episode 1 of WandaVision, that is exactly how the Dick Van Dyke Show was shot. It's like big, wide angles and all that. Not a whole lot of close-ups or anything, but just like maybe a camera 1, camera 2, and camera 3 at the most. Or even more like a single camera thing where they just like get a wide, get camera shot to the left, camera shot to the right, and then bada bing, bada boom, that's done. Here it's a lot more artistically pleasing, and while I did like it, it's not the same as the Bewitched series. The Bewitched series kind of invoked similar things, but maybe just a tad bit closer to Dick Van Dyke and Mary Tyler Moore or whatever. Then you would get basically Bewitched. This one was a little bit too cinematic, I would say. It's just a nitpick. I still love the episode. If I had to rate it, I would give it an A+, but that's the one thing that I was like, okay, that's a little too much there. Maybe just pull back a little bit. But anyway, fantastic episode. What did you guys think of this episode? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why the heck would you hate it? This show is amazing. Comment and subscribe and let me know what you guys think of it. How do you think the show will end? Comment, let me know. Subscribe, ring that bell. More content coming your way. More episodes and reaction reviews coming your way about this show. And hey, take care, everybody. What's going on, everybody? This is WandaVision, Episode 3 reaction review. Knocking these things out one after the other because I'm trying to catch up with all the other episodes. And hey, if you want to hear what I have to say about the other previous episodes, click the links in the descriptions and all that. Look on the playlist at the end of the video. Should get you all the way over there. Bada bing, bada boom. Let's get into this thing because this thing, it gets real, ladies and gentlemen. This gets real. Not exaggerating. It gets real in this episode. So let's start with the first segment. What is this episode parodying? Well, I'll tell you. Apparently, it's the Partridge Family. Now, I have not seen a single episode of the Partridge Family, so I couldn't tell you. But I watched it with my mom, actually, and she was a big fan of the Partridge Family. And apparently, it's very much in tune with that. I thought it was the Brady Bunch. Perfectly honest with you, I have no concept as to what the Partridge Family would even entail. So I can't say whether or not they got it right or wrong, but I gotta say, they did entail a little bit of reference to the Brady Bunch in that the house looks fairly similar to the Brady Bunch. I gotta tell you, it looks like a reverse, like a mirror image of the Brady Bunch house, which was kind of funny, actually. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, we do have more of a reverent place in our shows to have people of color take centerfold. Congratulations. America's progressing, thank God, rightfully so. However, they also kind of share with us some sexism in this show, which, I don't know, given the time period, it makes sense, but I mean, it's whatever. I actually could have taken it or leaving it, but, whatever. Same thing with all the other episodes with the keeping the people of color kind of in the background or whatever, but, what can you do? It's part of history, and if you want to be authentic to the sitcoms of the time, that's kind of what we're at, folks. Do I support it? No, but it's in there, and I just wanted you guys to be aware and not to be triggered. Number 2, plot. What is this plot about? Well, let me tell you. So Wanda's pregnant with the baby, and in fact, she's so far on in her pregnancy that she's like 8 months pregnant or something. Vision's trying to figure out what and when they're going to come out. He's never seen anything like this, and he's kind of sensing that maybe something is kind of amiss in this reality. because there was the dinner thing, there was the beekeeper thing, and now this pregnancy. But what does Wanda do? She just cuts all that segment out, and Vision's just like, yeah, we'll figure this out as we go along. I'm just going to do some calculations to figure out when these babies are actually going to be delivered. And the thing is, they're kind of goofing around. They're kind of like cute fighting, kind of, where it's like Vision wants to name the kid Billy because of William Shakespeare, and Wanda wants to name the kid Timmy. Timmy! I don't know why, but when she said Timmy, I just heard South Park in my back of my mind just going, Timmy! I'm sorry, I should kill myself. But anyway. In actuality, that is a reference to the comics. Wanda and Vision, I guess, do have kids. They have twins, and they named them Billy and Timmy. And that is, in fact, what happens at the end of the episode. She gives birth to twins, and she names them Billy and Timmy. Oh, wait, actually, I apologize. His name is Tommy. So, Billy and Tommy. I don't know why. I haven't watched South Park in a while, and all of a sudden I just hear Timmy every time they say Tommy. I apologize. But anyway, we get a visit from Dr. Nielsen, which is a Easter egg for the Nielsen ratings, which kind of govern whether or not a show would be canceled or not. Especially in older television, the higher the Nielsen rating, the more likely the show will be picked up for another season. It's kind of like the box office of movies. The higher the box office, the more likely you'll get a sequel and all that type of stuff. But anyway, we follow Vision, and Vision continues to notice that something's kind of weird in this home, in this reality, because Herb, who is a next door neighbor now, is trimming his hedges and then starts to saw his way through the granite wall thing, which is kind of weird, and Vision kind of takes note about it. But anyway, because Wanda's kind of having labor pains, all these things start to blast up all over the place. Vacuum starts to vacuum by itself. A stork appears and she can't get away. The whole power in the entire neighborhood kind of goes out because of her giving birth and all that stuff. So Geraldine comes in, who we know is Monica Rambeau. And, corny jokes ensue. And lo and behold, Vision runs over to the doctor, runs back with the doctor. Geraldine helps to give birth to Tommy. Not Timmy, but Tommy. I got to keep on remembering that. It's Tommy. And then joke. And all of a sudden, Billy's born. So they got twins. Why is this a reference? Well, because Wanda is a twin from Avengers Age of Ultron. His name was Pietro, Wanda says, reminding herself that she was a twin. And then just the crap hits the fan, everybody. She sings the Slakovian lullaby and all that. Vision goes out, seeing the Dr. Nielsen guy going away, and asks him to do well on his trip. And the doctor's like, well, I don't think I can, because, can never leave the home, can you? Vision's kind of taken off of that remark, and then we see our first appearance of Catherine Hahn in the entire episode. This is like at the final 5 minutes of this episode. She's talking to Herb and all that, and Vision's kind of pressing them like, what the heck's going on? What are you guys talking about? And they ask about Geraldine, and Geraldine's not supposed to be here. And the fact that she doesn't have a house, and Vision's kind of like trying to press them for like information. But then Catherine Hahn looks at Herb, who's about to give it away, but she's like, looks at him with this weird and frightful face on herself, kind of signaling to me that maybe Catherine Hahn doesn't have all the power in this realm. Maybe she's not controlling Wanda. Maybe Wanda is controlling everybody, and she is like deathly afraid of what Wanda can do. And as this is going on, Geraldine kind of blurts out Ultron's name, and Wanda's like, what the hell did you just say? And Geraldine's trying to like get off of the subject, but Wanda's like, what's that necklace? And it's the necklace of of a sword logo. And she's like, you're not supposed to be here. And she just turns extremely dark. And Geraldine's like, Wanda, I'm your friend. And she's like, no, you're not. Catherine Hahn goes away. Vision walks back into the house and like, where's Geraldine? And Wanda's like, she had to go home. And then next thing we see, Geraldine, aka Monica Rambeau, is flying out of this realm onto like the sword base and all that, and cut to black. And we're like, oh crap, what the heck just happened here? Oh boy. So that's it for that. Let's talk about the things that are good. Of course, the main cast is great. Again, give them all the awards. Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany, Catherine Hahn. Just give them the awards. Just give them all the awards. I'm not going to delve into that, but they're just simply fantastic. Herb, again, my man, making an appearance again in this episode. Thank God. He's become my favorite character just simply because of his charisma. I mean, everyone's in this show has got charisma, but I mean, my man Herb right there. Herb. I love you, man. But anyway, what I truly love about this episode is the ending. And many people tend to agree with me that, yes, this ending is very, very good. Everything's kind of turned to a complete 180. We kind of figure out that Wanda is kind of the mastermind behind everything in this thing. We kind of learn Monica Rambeau isn't who she is, and then she gets blurted out of this realm and whatever. Oh yeah, wait, I forgot something. So there is another commercial. It's about Hydra Soak, which is apparently, I guess, a 1970s commercial, because I remember my mother saying that, yeah, Hydra Soak was a product of the time, and I was like, what, really? Yeah, it's a woman's product. I was like, oh gosh, okay. Which kind of leads me to the question, what exactly is this thing supposed to really do? Because it's a lady's product, but it's Hydra. Did Hydra like take away her womanhood or something? When they were trying to experiment on her, did they like take away her like ability to make babies and reproduce and all that? Like, what the heck's up with that? I think we'll kind of figure out more as we go along, I believe. But again, for the first time, the guy that's normally in all these commercials, he's not there, actually. It's actually a woman with 2 kids, which is kind of interesting. Now, like previous episode, we didn't see a single kid. In this thing, we see at least 4, if not more, in the town in the opening. So that's kind of a neat, interesting thing. I love nitpicking these things. Now let's get into what I think is, again, the worst part of the episode, and excluding the ending, excluding like the last 7 to 5 minutes of the ending, this show is nothing like Brady Bunch or the Partridge Family, what little I found on YouTube. Again, it's too many shots. You just got to keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid. Just like what you did with the Dick Van Dyke Show in episode 1. That is exactly like the Dick Van Dyke Show. It's perfect. But then you kind of went a little too much with this episode, even more than the second one. There are even more camera shots in this one than the second one. It's very... no, this is not the Brady Bunch or the Proud... or no, not the Proud Family, the Partridge Family. It's nothing like that. From a technical perspective, camera movements and all that, it's not like the Partridge Family or Brady Bunch at all. You got to keep it simple. There's like one camera. You got to use one camera. Keep on using one camera. But again, that's excluding the last 7 to 5 minutes of this episode, which was kind of like dealing with the reality, quote unquote reality of this series, which is awesome. It's like a big mic drop. Kevin Feige just did a mic drop to everybody. Thank you. Fantastic work in the last 7 to 5 minutes of this episode. Also, there's kind of a tidbit here from what I've seen so far. Each and every episode is in reference to an ABC show, except for the first episode, which was Dick Van Dyke, clearly, and that's a CBS show. But everything else, from Brady Bunch to Partridge Family to Bewitched to all the other references that they make, they're clearly ABC sitcoms, and ABC is owned by Disney, and Marvel's owned by Disney. Suspicious, kind of suspect, kind of sus in this. I don't think they have the rights to parody CBS or NBC shows prior to, I guess, the Dick Van Dyke Show, which I guess might be the reason why they're saying it's a 1950s show, to kind of shake off the Dick Van Dyke Show fandom here. Yeah, interesting. Oh, also, I gotta say something here. I don't know what's gonna happen in episodes to come, except for the 4th episode, which is already out by now when I'm recording this. But if they don't do a Full House reference episode where it's basically Full House, it is a 90s sitcom. It's an 80s sitcom. It started in the 80s. It stopped in the 90s. So you can do it either in the 80s or the 90s. Elizabeth Olsen's sisters are Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, who played Michelle in Full House. If they don't do a Full House reference in one of these episodes, they missed a chance, man. They missed like a supreme chance. They missed a fun thing to do here. And I suspect Kevin Feige's going to do something with Full House. That he has to, man. I mean, that is so... No. I refuse someone who isn't disconnected with every single aspect of film and television media. I highly doubt he's not going to have a Full House reference in the 80s or the 90s episodes. And so, yeah, that's it for this episode reaction and review, everybody. If you guys want to leave your comments below whether or not Kevin Feige is going to have a Full House reference episode, comment, let me know, subscribe, and ring that bell. More content, more WandaVision reaction reviews coming your way. And hey, take care, everybody. Aloha, my gals and guys and all that. Welcome to WandaVision episode 4 reaction and review. Now, to be fair, I haven't really posted anything about WandaVision in about 114 days, which is my fault. But we're back, we're up and running, let's do this thing. So, this episode dives a lot more into Monica Rambeau and her origin story, basically. And we see her kind of reforming, vamping up from the blip as it's referenced in the MCU, and it was really the snap in our world, but yeah. Anyway, she comes back into the hospital where she was, I guess, dusted or something. But what I find particularly interesting about this thing is the way she morphs back. I looked it up after I watched the episode, and apparently it's based on House of M storyline when all the mutants were, I guess, destroyed or whatever, like disappeared. Kind of like the snap, but yeah, instead of like dust and all that being morphed back together, it was like a lot more blocky, a lot more like liquid morphine, I guess, or something like that. Like morphine as in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, not morphine as in the other drug, but whatever. Anyway, I found it to be pretty interesting. And not only that, we see what happens, like the real stakes of what happens when everyone from 5 years ago is all of a sudden dusted back and comes back to life. What's the ramifications of that in the real world? We saw that a little bit in Spider-Man Far From Home, but that was more of a comedic type of thing. But here we actually find a lot more questions answered. I mean, people don't know. People don't know what to do. They don't know how to help them, because there's a lot more hospital people, a lot more patients just morphing into existence and don't really know exactly what to do and how to help them. And the hospital that Monica's in is going absolutely insane, going crazy. And I found that to be pretty interesting. Finally, they are explaining what's going on in this world, you know? Anyway, we see Monica later on. She comes back to, I guess, Sword now. I guess this is Sword now, where she meets Tyler Hayward, and apparently, yeah, he's kind of the bad guy. I mean, it's kind of blatant. It's kind of thrown in your face here, but anyway, I guess she's on another assignment, and she's going to meet Jimmy Woo, who perfected the card trick from Ant-Man and the Wasp. And if you looked on the internet back when this episode first happened, it's all over the place. He finally perfected the card trick, and I was just like, yeah, he did. It was actually really nice little touch there. I mean, even the smallest of littlest things were kind of wrapped up in this universe, which I really do enjoy about the MCU. It's just the little touches that makes it all the right better, I guess. So after a bunch of discombobulance, I guess, Monica's thrown into the void, which looks like a TV screen. If you look at it real close, you see all the lights, the red, blue, and green lights. It's kind of a fuzzy type of thing, which is covering this entire town of Westview, and in fact, it is a real town. So now Jimmy Woo and the FBI and SWORD agents are now trying to get her out, as well as trying to get Wanda and Vision, who's mysteriously still alive, out of the void and to try to stop the void from, I guess, taking over the world or whatever. And not only that, but with the help of Marcy from the first four Thor movies. I don't know why I said four, but whatever. And I gotta say, she's not that terrible in this episode. I mean, in this episode, she's a lot more subdued. She's not at all, cringe as she was, especially in Thor 2. But she's more subdued. She's more realistic. She's just cracking jokes, just trying to levy up the heavy energy that's going on in the research facility as follows and all that. And I got to admit, she has the most laughs in this entire episode. I mean, she had more laughs than in the entirety of Thor, where I thought she was previously the most hilarious in the entire MCU, but now, this one episode, she was all right, Good job there. I see you improving over there. You're doing a good job. Good job. That's all we really want, is to improve, do better. You're doing a lot better, so good job. Good job there. Anyway, it's Marcy who finds out that it's a TV show, and she decides to start watching it, trying to gather up information and all that type of stuff. And what I find to be really interesting is the fact that they needed an old TV instead of a new TV, because old TVs actually pick up a special TV signal. I mean, if you lived back in the 90s and even early 2000s, you would know specific network TVs, specific network channels had this signal, this special signal that can only be picked up by a few TVs with the antennas and stuff. That's why old TVs have the antennas, to pick up that signal. But in 2009, the president at the time, Obama, kind of abolished that and made sure everyone had to pay for cable and satellite and all that type of stuff, which, to be fair, no one else was using at the time. So, I mean, that's fine. But enough of the history lessons. So I found that to be pretty interesting. You couldn't use any old TV. You got to have one of those old TVs with the antennas on there. And Good job there, Feige. Good job. I see you working there. I see you using your brain. Good job there. And basically, that's how the episode goes for most of the time. It's very, very much answering the questions asked by the previous 3 episodes. It's what happened to the beekeeper? Well, we don't really see that, but we see how they kind of transform from modern day stuff to period centric type of things, like the beekeeper turned in from a SWORD agent and all that type of stuff. And basically Marcy and Johnny Woo are basically trying to decipher all the questions for us as well. We're asking so many questions, how did it get here, who's controlling it, all that type of stuff. Who's Catherine Hahn's character, because we don't see any information on her name and all that type of stuff. But then come to find out at the end of the episode, it is Wanda. According to Monica Rambeau, it is all Wanda. And Vision is a little bit really scared, I guess, because he sits down with a really awkward smile on his face, very forced smile while sitting down with the kids and the babies and all that. And yeah, that's the end of the episode recap. What did I like about this episode? Well, I like the fact that it kind of answered a lot of our questions that were burning up inside us. And as previously mentioned, I like the whole little tiny hints of world building, which I think is one of the best things the MCU kind of does. It goes into a little bit more of the details and a little bit more of the little nuanced things that many people would probably not know, except for us movie nerds. And this episode is just another example of that type of world building, which I really do enjoy and love. Also, I love Marcy's character. I think she's used very, very well in this episode. Is she did a complete 180 to be one of my favorite characters? Not yet, but I still say that it shows promise. I think they're using Marcy's character a lot better than in the Thor movies, honestly. Johnny Woo's character is actually used pretty nice as well. Like in Ant-Man and the Wasp, he was kind of a foil, but kind of a comedic foil. Now he's more structured. He's more to the book, by the book, and like trying to decipher this whatever's going on, which is kind of a little bit of a 180 as well. Like they're flipping the characters. They're not really using the characters that were previously set up in previous movies. They're using them better, and I really do like that. I mean, do they still have some comedic elements in there? Absolutely, but I think they're used better. Like, I love the fact that Marcy's really connected to the show. It's like, she's like the audience. Like, we're connected to this show. It's so great. Things I didn't really like about this episode. It's a lot like the other Marvel type of things that we've previously seen. Like, it's a lot like the movies and a bunch of other type of stuff like that, which I guess it had to happen because, you know, they have to explain what the hell is going on. But at the same time, it was so different from any other Marvel movies and TV shows at that time up until this episode, which was very, very much a Marvel episode, which again isn't quite that bad, but there was so much originality to the first 3 episodes that was like, oh man, why we revert back to this type of thing? It's kind of jarring, but at the same time, I understand why it's there, but also at the same time, they could have used a little bit more creativity, a little bit more other type of things, I guess. But to be fair, a lot of my friends who actually watched this show actually love this episode the most, even though they hated the sitcom aspect of it, which I do not understand because I love the sitcom aspect of it. I'm a huge sitcom nerd, if you will. And yeah, but these are also the people who also didn't like Guardians of the Galaxy because they didn't connect to the overall MCU. And I was like, what the hell? Are you serious? Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2? That's like one of the greatest movies the MCU's ever made. But whatever. I'm not going to comment on that. But anyway, is it a solid episode? Absolutely it is. Is it as solid as the other ones? Not really, not necessarily, but I think it didn't waver any of my previous likeness for this show. In fact, I still really do enjoy this show. It's just, I wish it would be a little bit more creative. I don't know why I'm having a rough pronunciation of words today, but I really do enjoy this show still. It's just more creativity would probably be warranted. But anyway, guys, what do you think about this episode? Do you think it's better or worse than the previous 3? Comment, let us know, subscribe, ring that bell. More content come your way, and hey, take care. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this reaction review of WandaVision Episode 5. And yes, we are back. We're back to the sitcoms. A lot of people don't like it. I don't care. I love it. I love these sitcom episodes. But this time it's more of a mixture. We get a little bit more of the Marvel ness of episode 4, but also we get some more sitcoms from the previous 3 episodes, or the first 3 episodes. So yes, what happens this time? Well, this time it's an 80s to early 90s sitcom-ness, taking the form of a Family Ties and a Full House episode, which I thought was pretty clever. In fact, I would dare say that would be a missed opportunity. Kevin Feige knows this. I mean, who's Elizabeth Olsen's older sisters? That, of course, is Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, aka the twins from Full House. So, if they weren't going to do a Full House parody, I would be kinda just dumbfounded that they didn't take that chance. But they did. Very, very not as much as Family Ties. It was more Family Ties than Full House, which I was a little bit disappointed in, but they still referenced Full House quite a lot to an extent, which I really did enjoy. Not to say that I hate Family Ties, but, I mean, it's Elizabeth Olsen. I mean, she's connected to Full House, whether she wants to or not. I mean, but they did reference it. Good job. As little as it is, but, whatever. Also, a few corrections from my previous reaction review. There wasn't a commercial, so I didn't have the obligation to talk about it because there wasn't any. Also, I'm going to probably just stop saying that the performances are fantastic because they are. I mean, I talked about a few of them, but I mean, just Monica and everyone, Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany, amazing, fantastic job. I don't think I should say it anymore because it's just dead air. I mean, it's obviously they're going to have fantastic performances unless said otherwise. So let's just continue with this as we go along, shall we? In this particular episode, the babies that Wanda gave birth to, I guess it was yesterday in the show's run, they actually grow up to being age 5, and then they grow up to be age 10. So they just continue to grow and grow, although stopping at age 10, which, for better or for worse, I mean, I don't know. And I gotta say, the 10-year-old kids aren't that bad of actors. The 5-year-old kids, they're a little, meh. But the good news is we don't really see a lot of them, so it might be for the better. But the 10-year-old kids, they actually aren't that bad. So props to the casting department for getting some great kids. I mean, good job. Anyway, so basically there are 2 separate stories, and I'm going to detail each and every one of them. So here we go. The first story is around Wanda and Vision and all that type of stuff. So basically it's Wanda and Vision trying to live their lives with their kids. Wanda trying to juggling how the kids are growing and all that and taking care of the kids and a lot of other stuff, while Vision is busy doing his work and being skeptical about the world. Like, how are the kids growing? Why didn't Wanda kind of hide her abilities to Agnes when she's done that all throughout the show so far? And apparently an email from Sword actually happens to come on to one of the newer computers of the 80s. So Vision, somehow, I don't really understand what motivated him to do this, or the fact that how he was kind of understood how to do this, but he lets go of one of the workplace employees, and it turns out that he's actually a real person. He's gasping for air. He's basically going insane because he's under a sort of spell, if you will. But in order to contain him, Vision kind of warps him back to his vegetated states, which is really weird for Vision to do, but I'm not going to question it quite yet. But anyway, next we got Wanda and the kids having a new dog named Sparky, and then apparently, somehow, when Agnes has Sparky, Sparky dies. And the kids want her to bring him back from the dead, and apparently, Wanda can't do that. Thus, giving us a little bit of a hint into the limitations of her powers, being that she can't bring people back from the dead, thus telling us, the viewers, giving us little hints into the fact that I believe Vision is not a real person, and in fact, he's fake. She can't bring people back from the dead, so how can she bring back Vision from the dead? I mean, yeah, kind of obvious there. And apparently, they, from the real side of the universe, Monica comes back and figures out how to kind of morph all the reality, I guess, and gets an 80s style drone to come in to see if they can talk to Wanda to let everyone go. And we also get a subtle hint into hers and Captain Marvel's relationship as well, if I'm remembering correctly. Apparently Monica Rambeau isn't all that fond of Captain Marvel anymore, probably because she went off-world in the 90s and didn't come back any time. And I believe we're going to see that relationship kind of transpire in The Marvels, which is a new movie, aka Captain Marvel 2, which will be coming out in a few years. But now back to this episode. And apparently the big bad guy from the previous episode is trying to take out Wanda, even though she could easily have taken out Thanos, aka the crazy Titan himself. Probably the most memed thing to come out of the MCU, except for Baby Groot. Yeah, he tried to take her out, and of course she survived, thus not trusting anybody outside of the barrier and continue making the drone explode, coming out of the barrier, talking with the people in the most Marvel-ish way possible, being all cocky and stuff, and then making the barrier red so they can't even see inside the barrier anymore, thus being more House of M than ever before, I suppose. Oh, but we're not done yet. All the timelines and storylines collide into one of the biggest, giganticest things to ever appear in the MCU up to this point. One of the things that got the internet uproar and ablaze and all that. After having a fight between Wanda and Vision, kind of like a standoff, not really a fight, but more of a standoff, because Vision wants everyone to get released, while Wanda's like, no, I did this for you. Lo and behold, the doorbell rings. Marcy looks at it too, or Darcy looks at it too, and Pietro comes back, but it's not our Pietro from the MCU. No, this is Pietro, aka Quicksilver, from the X-Men universe, the same actor. And I gotta admit, when I first watched this, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Just like everyone else on the internet, my mind was blown. I was like, oh my gosh, are they going to introduce the X-Men into this show? How could they not? What could they possibly do? This is way too much of it was way too much coincidence to be brought here, even though this was made way before Disney and Marvel could even have the X-Men in their show. And if they did, it would ruin a lot of the contracts and a lot of the laws dedicated to making this merger happen between Disney and Fox. And I even knew it back then, but if you guys want to look it up and get spoiled, I mean, yeah, I'm not saying anything. But yeah, overall it was a pretty decent episode. I would say there's a few more, I mean, all the good is basically understood. I mean, Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany, fantastic actors. Everyone acted really well, especially Catherine Hahn. And now we get to see everybody come together basically to see what the world is nowadays and all that type of stuff. As well as apparently there are more episodes to this show that we have not seen as the audience. So maybe they'll come out with a season 2 of that. I doubt it, but it wouldn't be that bad to see, in my opinion. But anyway, I like the standoff with Vision and Wanda kind of floating in the air and all that, kind of like, what are you going to do, huh? I love you, but I don't want you to do this, Wanda. And she's like, I love you too, but I have to do this, Vision. You know, that type of thing. It was really sweet, actually. The one thing that I don't necessarily like in this episode is the fact that Vision just pulls something out of his ass and kind of redoes what Wanda did all of a sudden without even knowing what to do. It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of lazy, not set up all that well, I don't think. It's kind of weird. I don't understand why Vision did it. I mean, I understand why he did it. I don't understand how he knew how to do it. I don't know. It could have been explained a little bit better. Also, the 80s drone. I don't know if in the 80s they actually did have drones. Maybe it was, I don't know, technology that was in Area 51 or something that no one... I don't know. I'm not really a huge military technological person. And again, this is the same universe where apparently in the 1990s... a flying alien human crash landed in a blockbuster and we made the most perfect human being fighting machine in the 1940s. So, I mean, who knows? I don't know. But those are my real complaints about that episode. But overall, I really did enjoy it. It still catches my interest still. And I wouldn't say it's a bad episode. I wouldn't say the show is bad either. I'd just say maybe take a little bit more thought into a little bit of those two areas, but otherwise, very, very well done. Question is for you guys. What did you think of this episode? Do you like the fact that it shares the two timelines now of Wanda in the TV world and the regular people in the real world, quote unquote? Comment, let us know, subscribe, ring that bell. More content come your way. And hey, take care. Also, hey guys, this is me coming back in from finishing the episode review. And I just wanted to say that I missed out on one aspect. And I briefly mentioned it. It was the commercial. This time was about Lagos paper towels cleaning up people's messes. This is a reference to Wanda's destruction of Lagos in Captain America Civil War, thus implementing the Sokovia Accords. So, yeah, I forgot to mention it. I thought it was very, very well done, as per usual. And, yeah, that's... All right, ladies and gents, and welcome to WandaVision Episode 6 Reaction Review, a.k.a. the Halloween Special. Now, right off the bat, here's a few things that I absolutely love about this episode. Number one being the theme song. This theme song is popping. It's popping and locking. Before this theme song, I would say my favorite one would probably be the Bewitched one in the second episode, but this one just takes the cake. It's so drenched in early 2000s cheese right here. And to be perfectly honest, if it did exist, which I know it doesn't because I searched to death and it doesn't exist outside of this episode, but if this song existed in Spotify or anything like that, I would be listening to this theme song on the regular all the time. So if any Disney execs, which I know there aren't, but if any Disney execs are listening to this thing, please put it on Spotify. Put at least this theme song on Spotify or YouTube or anything, because this is the best work you've done. I mean, bravo, props to you. I mean, it's obviously kind of a parody of Malcolm in the Middle and those types of sitcoms and theme songs that were happening around that time. And honestly, Malcolm in the Middle has been revered as one of the best sitcoms of our modern age. So I can understand why they kind of did that there. I mean, good job. Good job there. Throughout this episode, there's a lot of fourth wall breaking, which Malcolm normally did in his show and all that. It's mostly about the kids, not necessarily about the adults, but it kind of teeters a little bit toward Wanda because it is Wanda's show, basically. And Vision, we get some more Vision in here too. I mean, it is their show, but the kids are taking over, ladies and gentlemen. The kids are taking over. And the second greatest thing of this whole episode is the commercial. The commercial in this one is absolutely wacky and insane. It is the most wacky and insane commercial ever put on this show. Basically, it's claymation, which I remember watching a lot of those commercials as a kid, talking about how, this kid, he's starving to death. And this guy's like, oh, hey, take a little bit of my yogurt over here, man. Which I remember a lot of Go-Gurt commercials kind of being kind of like this, claymation, just like cool shark, doing its thing. And then the kid just tries to open it and can't for days and days and just dies with its skeleton just on the island. And then it's just saying, this yogurt is so radical, man. And I'm like, whoa, dude, what the heck? And the yogurt's name is Yo Magic. And no spoilers, but this isn't about something that happened in Wanda's past that we've seen so far. This is what's going to happen in the later of the show. So it's going to be explained later on in the show. So, I mean, yeah. But when I first watched this thing, I was like, what the hell is this? This is so creepy and weird. But in the best ways, I'm just trying to figure out what the hell this means. But anyway, it's freaking awesome, man. I mean, there's so many different Easter eggs to boot. You got Wanda in her WandaVision clothes from the comics and being all like, yeah, I'm a Slakovia fortune teller. I see you, Kevin. I see you, Kevin Feige over here, being all creative and all that. And oh my gosh, Vision. Dressing up like Vision from the comics. Oh, look at that over there. And oh, Quicksilver over here. Dressing up like Quicksilver from the comics. Also, it's interesting to note that I kind of figured out while watching this episode the first time was Quicksilver, his speed, his streaks and all that looked like the MCU level of speed, where it's kind of like a blur, whereas in the X-Men, like Days of Future Past and Apocalypse and all those movies and all that, Quicksilver is more like just appeared out of nowhere. There wasn't a blur or anything. So this is ironically more MCU Quicksilver, which, okay, pretty interesting. I know I'm a nerd, but I noticed that. And here's the thing also that's pretty interesting that many people called up, but I was like, I don't think they might really do that quite yet, but they did. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, they did. So let me try to get this right because they have almost identical names. Tommy inherited the super speed from his uncle, aka Quicksilver, so now he's called Speed. He's Speed in the comics, but he's never called Speed in this show, but he is Speed. Let's put it lightly. Billy inherited WandaVision's powers and can see things from far away and all that, and has some of her telepathy powers and all that type of stuff, and can, sense people from far away and all that. And come to find out, his superhero name in the comics is Wiccan, and he's apparently a LGBTQ plus character in the MCU. So yeah, more representation. I like it. So yeah, most of the episode is kind of not all that much really happening or going on or whatever in the show part of the world necessarily. I mean, Vision's just walking along the whole neighborhood just to see like what's going on, to kind of investigate a little bit further. And as we travel farther than Wanda is, apparently she can't hold everybody there. She can't like make everybody do or say things that they want to do. They're mostly just standing still, and one's even like crying because she can't hold her kids, which is kind of, that's horrific. I mean, if a person, like, you know, a father or a mother had kids, they can see them, but they can't reach them. It's kind of sad. I mean, I felt for this thing. I mean, I felt for this family, you know, it's very touching. What the heck, Marvel? That's why. Anyway, Wanda keeps on trying to see what's going on with Quicksilver, seeing if he's actually her real brother or whatever, even though he looks very different from the Quicksilver we know from the MCU. And they even tell a little joke here and there, like Kick-Ass. Wanda mentions Kick-Ass, and the guy who was Quicksilver in these movies, he played Kick-Ass in those 2 movies of Kick-Ass. So there you go. Joke. As you can tell, I'm not really all that enthused, but, you know, there's a little funny there. That's a little funny there. Okay, good job. And anyway, the more of the story is focused on Monica, Darcy, and Jimmy, with them, you know, disrupting the Colonel's like plans and all that to destroy Wanda, and then they're like kicked off the base. But Darcy is tracking Vision through the void because of the vibranium signature that he possesses. But none of that really matters, because what happens at the end shocks and terrorizes everybody that watched it. The big reveal, the big, huge, climactic ending to this episode is as follows. So Vision sees the barrier, goes through the barrier, and as he comes out the other end, he starts to break apart and being destroyed, thus kind of hinting at the fact that he's not real. He can't exist outside of the void. Darcy is here as well, and she tries to help Vision, but the army people tie her up, basically, like handcuff her to a car or something. Wiccan sees Vision kind of being destroyed and all that, tells his mother. Quicksilver tells a bad joke, and Wanda's like, blows him across town, basically. And her telling the kids to get inside, and then she extends the barrier, and everyone starts freaking out and going insane. Thus cementing the fact that, yes, she is the only one that's controlling this field. Vision makes it back into the void. Darcy makes it into the void. However, Jimmy Woo and Monica escape, and thus is the end of this episode. And oh my gosh, it was pretty eventful. I mean, it was almost, with all this stuff going on, it was almost equally as eventful as the whole Quicksilver reveal, in my opinion, as that. But it did have a more lasting impact, in my opinion, because anyone could watch it and be not lost. Whereas if they watch the Quicksilver reveal, they're kind of be like, okay, what the heck's going on here? And I don't know, if you're not a movie nerd and you're watching it in, like, I don't know, 2046 or something like that, you probably won't understand what the heck's going on. But anyway, I mean, what I liked about this episode, everything, basically, it was all really great. I don't really have a whole lot of complaints about this episode. I mean, they even kind of hinted at the fact that Monica might have some powers, because she went through the void like twice already, you know, going in and then coming back out, and now she wants to go back in again. Her cellular levels are kind of going out of whack, which seems to be that she might have some, I don't know, might have weird powers coming up later, coming soon to a theater near you, you know, who knows. But as always, in a Marvel or DC movie or whatever, whenever someone says something's changing in your cellular level, you can bet for sure that something, yeah, they're going to have powers, you know, whatever. I would say that's my only complaints, the little bit of that. But everything else was freaking awesome. And I even think the little foreshadowing for powers is freaking awesome. I mean, even though it's been done to death by now, it's still great. No complaints here. The comedy, the nuance, the horror, the drama, it's all portrayed in this one episode. And in fact, this might be one of my favorites, if not my absolute favorite. I mean, I still really like episode 1 and episode 2. They were really good, but this one just takes the cake for me. It's absolutely fantastic. Anyway, guys, comment, let us know, subscribe, ring that bell. What did you think of this episode? Do you think it's the best one this show has to offer? Subscribe, ring that bell. More content coming your way, and hey, take care, guys. Well, ladies and gents, here we are. The ultimate climax, if you will. The last real sitcom-esque episode of this show. And I know some people are cheering for it and some people are crying about it. I'm crying about it, folks. I'm sorry. I love the sitcoms. And I don't know, man. It's really, really kind of sad for me. Anyway, guys, welcome to WandaVision Episode 7 Reaction Review. And lo and behold, this is a obvious Modern Family ripoff. I mean, there's nothing else. Not to say that I hate Modern Family, because I actually do quite enjoy it. But this is basically it. This is all... it's not early 2010s or 2010s in general without Modern Family. And that's it. It's Modern Family. It's nothing but Modern Family. I mean, people say it's kind of like The Office as well, but no, it's not. It's all Modern Family. Modern Family had the exact same thing as The Office, except theirs was more like a documentary based on just a regular family and the modernness of that family, if you will. And yep, here we are. Modern Family. That's it. And you know what occurred to me after making that other previous episode review was the fact that they completely skipped the 90s. I mean, there was... people were making a sort of comments on the fact that it might be late 90s to early 2000s with Malcolm in the Middle, but Malcolm in the Middle was like created and released in 2000. So no, it's not a late 1990s show. It's a 2000 show. And I didn't see anyone else saying, or I didn't see anything else 90s wise in that show. All I saw was like 2000s, but still a great episode. I'm just saying it's not 90s. It's early 2000s. So my two real big things about this whole show in general is the fact that they tried to pass off the 1950s type of sitcom as being the Dick Van Dyke Show when it was actually made in the 60s. And they did not make a 1990s sitcom episode, which I'm kind of like, what? Why didn't you do that? Could have been so much more, and yet not so much. You're kind of like jumping all over the place, which is not a real complaint. It's just, I kind of wish they kind of had a 90s episode. I kind of wish they had a real 1950s episode instead of Dick Van Dyke, but it's whatever. It's not a real complaint about the overall quality of the show. It's just, I wish they kind of did that, but whatever. So this is basically mid to late 2010s with Modern Family basically, and Wanda wants a break from the kids because her powers are kind of going out of the whack. They're on 110% because she expanded the whole barrier of the whole thing and all that. And yeah, she gives the kids to Agnes, which will kind of come into effect later in the episode. And throughout this episode, we see that Wanda's powers are kind of going off the rails a little bit, kind of like reverting back to 60s, 50s, all that type of stuff. It's all cuckoo crazy. She can't keep anything in line. Vision wakes up after trying to go through the barrier and finds out that the sword agents that were absorbed are now part of a circus, which is kind of weird. a little bit random. I mean, I know that my tone is kind of like dismissing this episode, but it's actually not that bad. I mean, I'll get into it further later. But anyway, Darcy's in there. She's kind of like not really into it, but she's, doing her job because she's being manipulated by Wanda. And Vision unhinges her, and she's all like, whoa, what the heck? And then Darcy, through some escapades or whatever, steals a truck and tells Vision that he's not real, but he does have similar emotions and whatever as the previous Vision. So it's all kind of bizarre and kind of hard to take in, but it works really well. I like the fact that Vision's coming into his own here. I mean, this is powerhouse acting by Paul Bettany over here. I mean, I wouldn't know what I would do if I found out I wasn't real and living in a Matrix or something, but Paul did it to a very well extent. It's very well done. Oh yeah, also, apparently Monica and Jimmy Woo go to see her contact, which I haven't really said anything about this because I actually have seen the entire miniseries up to this point, and honestly, I forgot about that. But apparently, they went to see the contact, and through the internet, people were like, oh, is it going to be Mr. Fantastic from Fantastic Four? Oh, it's going to be Patrick Stewart from the X-Men because he played a big role in a House of M storyline. So maybe he's going to be in here because we already have Quicksilver. What's going on? And turns out it's just a random soldier that we've yet to hear about and yet to hear anything about since. That's why I didn't really talk about that all that much, because I really didn't care. It's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. And it's one of the bad points of this episode was the fact that it just, I know it's subverting expectations. They were building her up, and then all of a sudden it's just this random general, and I'm just like, yo, the heck? Boo! Boo! Good trick, Kevin Feige, but at the same time, boo! What? No, I'm kind of mad. But also, I'm kind of, laughing along with you, but at the same time, also like, boo, whatever. Anyway, so they tried to use some technology from Captain Marvel or the 90s or whatever, try to get into this barrier with the machine, but it doesn't work. And Monica just hops out, and then she just runs back in, and thus turning her into her comic book superhero-ness to it. And her name officially is by actually many different names. It's kind of weird. She's known as Photon, she's known as Pulsar, and in 2013 they changed her name again to Spectrum. But also she was Captain Marvel when, for a while, I guess, the real Captain Marvel was gone, and she took up the mantle of Captain Marvel. So I don't know. I mean, whatever. I honestly don't know what her name is, but I'm going to call her Spectrum because Spectrum is kind of a little bit more awesome in my opinion. So one of the best of her names. So whatever, Spectrum. And she does all the things that normal superheroes tend to do, the superhero landing and all that type of stuff. She blasts pulsars, I guess, out of her hands or whatever. Tries to talk to Wanda, try to reason with Wanda after just, going through a powerful energy field, finding out she has powers, and all of a sudden she's just like, okay, cool, let's do it. Which I'll get into later. But anyway, they have a confrontation. Wanda and Monica kind of walk their separate ways or whatever after Wanda kind of hurts her. Agnes comes in to swoop in and help Wanda out, and she's just like, yo, Monica, get out of here. Then Agnes tells her to go get the kids, that they're in the basement. Wanda goes into the basement, finds a lair with the Necronomicon. Agnes strings her up with magic. Then lo and behold, we find out that she's Agnetha Harkness, a.k.a. the Purple Witch. And she's been pulling strings behind Wanda's back the entire time. How she basically created Quicksilver, and in which he is not part of the real X-Men and just manipulated Wanda and all that type of stuff. And how she killed the dog Sparky, which got the biggest outcry. And I gotta say, Catherine Hahn, when she's discovered, she's just having a ball right here. I mean, holy crap, she's just fantastic. She is just playing up the cheese factor to the greatest extent, and I love it. Great job, Catherine. And yeah, those are the main likes of this episode. I really love the acting, of course, as per usual. The special effects were really great as well. I mean, what else do I have to say? There's two things that I really didn't quite like, but in particular, shout out to two main cast members that were just giving it their all in their performances. Paul Bettany figuring out, he's not real. Fantastic job. And Catherine Hahn, of course, again, fantastic job. But two things that I really didn't like about this episode, and here they are. Number one, I didn't really like the fact that Monica just, had powers and she didn't rest. Really? She was just like, okay, got powers. Let's do this. I don't know. I wish she would just take a minute to breathe and be like, oh, shoot, I got powers, yo. But no, she's just like, okay, well, let's do it. Which I guess is acceptable enough with her character, but at the same time, I mean, if I had powers, I'd probably take a minute to be like, yo, I got powers. What the heck? What are the ramifications of this? Should I stop and take a breath? I mean, what the heck should I do? No, she's just like, all right, got powers. Let's do this. Also, I didn't really like the fact that they were building up the general, and it turns out it's just a regular old general, not really anyone to take note of. And again, I told everyone what my opinion was about that. I like it in theory, didn't like it in practice, I guess. But overall, pretty decent episode. Not the best one that I ever saw. Like, again, I think the Malcolm in the Middle episode was by far the best, and a slow, second tier level was Dick Van Dyke episode and the Bewitched episodes. They were really good as well, but that's just me. But there's another type of thing that I'm a little bit interested in. It's the fact that there is a Necronomicon in this show, and there was a Necronomicon in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and they don't look similar at all. One on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has huge lettering on it, and this one doesn't. So, and I know Kevin Feige didn't really like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so maybe he's retconning Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I guess. I don't know. Who knows? That by itself is kind of interesting, because is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. part of the MCU anymore, or what's going on there? I don't know. Who knows? Also, there was a quite similar commercial going on, and the last commercial we'll probably ever talk about with this show, and that is the depression and anxiety medication episode that is rampant in 2010s, especially on television. And I got you there. I got you. We all know why Wanda has depression and anxiety. It's because of Vision's death. She's very, very much in limbo right now, I suppose. Probably because of all the deaths that's been going on with her, like Quicksilver, her brothers, and now the love of her life, I get you. I get you there. Very, very nice. Very, very well put. Not the best commercial, in my opinion, but still really good. Very, very nice touch. All right, guys. Comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think of this episode. Were you surprised with Agnes's big reveal? Comment, let us know, subscribe, ring that bell. More content coming your way. And hey, take care, guys. Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome to WandaVision Season 1, Episode 8, which is entitled Previously On. And right off the bat, let me just say that if you guys did not like the sitcom aspect of this show, well, you're in luck, because this is, without a doubt, the most Marvel-esque episode of this show so far. Now, Is that inherently a good thing or a bad thing? It's entirely up to you, honestly. Personally, I enjoyed it to an extent. There's some things that are kind of questionable, and I don't really know. There's some things in this episode that makes it probably the least favorite for me up until this point. And let's start out with the bad, because there's a lot more bad in this episode, personally for me, than any other episode so far, which I already stated. So here we go. Now, I've already stated how much I love the actors and actresses' performances in this show, particularly, Elizabeth Olsen's, Paul Bettany, and Catherine Hahn. They have all been really good up until this point. There is the opening parts of this episode, though, that I really didn't think was all that great, especially with Catherine Hahn's performance. Now, I love Catherine Hahn. I loved her in Parks and Rec and all that. I'll keep on singing her praises. But this episode, though, specifically in this point, it's very iffy, to say it lightly. She's really pouring it on here. I don't know if it was necessarily her fault or if it was the direction's fault or anything like that, but I don't know. Like in this opening, we see Catherine Hahn's origins, because we know from previous episodes that her name's Agatha Harkness and she is a witch. She's a witch just like Wanda, except she's accumulates other witches' powers, and she wants to do the same thing with Wanda, basically. And we kind of see what happened to her origins, basically, in the Salem witch trials of early America, for the most part. It's not really the Salem witch trials, but it's in Salem, and it's close to 1700s Salem witch trials, the end, all that stuff. But anyway, she's on a stake. She's about to get destroyed with fire and all that, but then she really, really hams it up with her performance. It honestly took me out of the episode, and I didn't even get started. It was really cheesy, and it was just she's screaming like a tongue. I was like, oh no, she would never shut up. And I was like, can we just soak in what's going on right now? You're about to die and all that, but you're just going, I'm sick and tired of it. Can you stop, please? But anyway, now we, after that pretty horrendous origins of Agatha Harkness, we see Wanda, and then we kind of go with her and Agatha to Wanda's origins, basically. And we see them completely kind of contradict the comics, with her being, Magneto's daughter and all that, and her being a mutant. She is not Magneto's daughter in this universe at all. Her parents are apparently some randos in the warring nation of Sokovia, and so is Peter, or Pietro, as we like to call him in this universe and all that. So yeah, basically with the war-torn nation of Sokovia, what kind of helped Wanda kind of relax and kind of mellow out is a lot of sitcoms, a lot of very old sitcoms, which was never said in any of the MCU up until this point, but okay, let's go with it then. But what I've liked about this segment really was the fact that they did implement the Dick Van Dyke Show. We do see the Dick Van Dyke Show being watched. Wanda specifically picks it among all the other ones. Fantastic, good job. You got the Dick Van Dyke reference because it was the first episode of this whole series. Good job, good going. My full support right there. But anyway, then we see her her house getting destroyed and all that. We see a lot of other things going on. We see Wanda kind of developing her powers and all that. Very small, but very noticeable. And then we see her getting kind of experimented on with the Mind Stone, I guess, from Loki's scepter and whatever. And we see her powers kind of open up, and we see what happens, I suppose, at the end of Age of Ultron, where she's watching sitcoms, and then Vision comes in to just check up on her and, kind of sit on her bed and all that. We'll come back to that later. And then we see Wanda coming in, breaking into where they're experimenting on Vision, and how she can't feel him. He's gone. And we see Wanda kind of seeing what Vision left for her, which was a house that he wanted to kind of live with her, kind of outside of the Avengers necessities or whatever. And it's in New Jersey, and it's in Westview, and he's building the house from the ground up, not using any of his powers, but we see the base for this house and all that. And then we see, in fact, how everything transpired, how everything kind of revved up to this moment. Wanda just explodes with all of her emotions and all that. We see all of her powers kind of transforming the house. We see her reconstruct Vision using, I guess, her powers and all that. And then she just accepts into this sitcom-esque world that she created. And then we see the end where, I guess, the kids are being held by Agnes until Wanda can, give her powers to Agnes and all that, and that's the end of the episode. So, what I think about it, I thought it was actually pretty darn good. Is it the worst of the WandaVision episodes? In my opinion, yes. However, that doesn't mean it's still not good. It's really, really good. It gets kind of a question mark, in my opinion, because it started out so weird and not good, but then it ended so great. I was like, what the heck? It just did a complete 180. I saw a 180 kind of happen before my very eyes. Like, I didn't really like Catherine Hahn's Agnes' origins. It was really, really cheesy and really like, no, this isn't working for me. This is I don't know what's going on here, but this is pretty bad. Pretty bad acting right here. I don't know if it's her fault. I don't know if it's the director's fault, but there's something's kind of a disconnect here, in my opinion. And then there was the whole thing with like introducing the sitcom thing, which I was like, okay, I kind of understand that, but there's no connection whatsoever with any of the other Marvel movies. I don't get that. But then we kind of got introduced to Wanda and Vision's actual relationship and how Wanda keeps on losing everyone she loves and holds most dear. We see how she lost her parents. We saw how she eventually lost her brother, which there's another question kind of pointing out at me. How is Pietro's powers kind of implemented here? We know Wanda's like the reincarnated Scarlet Witch, I guess, because Agnes told us about that. But what about Peter or Pietro? How does he get his powers? Is he a witch too? Like, what the heck's up with that? We never really understood. This never really answered there. But okay, let's move on then. And then we see, like, at the end of Age of Ultron, we see her trying to grip with the fact that her, brother is dead. Vision comes in and starts, laying the groundwork for their relationship and all that, which is pretty nice. It's really comforting. I really loved this scene. It was really, really good. And then, she just explodes with emotion because her lover is dead and all that. Like, everyone she loves dies, and she hates it when that happens. And everyone would hate it if that happened to them. So, very well put together at the very end. It's very, very well done. And also at the end credits, we get this little tease of what's to come in the last episode. White Vision. White Vision is going to come around. And I had no idea that this existed in the comics until it showed up, and I was like, what the heck's up with this? But okay, let's see what's going to happen going down there, I guess. But overall, fantastic plot of this episode. It just suffered a little bit in the beginning, but it completely turned over in the final half of this episode. So What did you guys think of this episode? Did you think it was the worst one? And if so, did you think it's still worth your time watching it? Comment and let me know. Subscribe, ring that bell. Personally, I think this episode is still out of the park with Marvel and all that. Very well done. Even though it's the least favorite I have of this entire season. What did you guys think? Comment below. Yo, what's going on, guys? Well, this is the end. This is the series finale of WandaVision, which is season 1, episode 9. Is it really the series finale, though? I don't really know. But anyway, that's what the name is of this episode, so we're just going to roll with it until then. But anyway, how you doing, everyone? This is Slam. We're going to be diving into this episode right now. So this is the ultimate climax of the entire series up until this point. We see White Vision coming in, just battling and all that. We see, like, Wanda's vision, I guess, transformed, battling White Vision and all that. We see the two witches battling each other. So it's a whole lot of battles, so little time. Let's dive into it, shall we? What's happening up until this point? Well, we got the kids, like, being tied down with Agnes and all that, with the whips and all that. Agnes tries to take Wanda's magic from her, but that's interrupted by White Vision. White Vision comes in and attacks both witches, but then targets to destroy Wanda. But then Wanda's vision, if you will, aka WandaVision. Oh, we will snap. Oh yeah, but then Wanda's vision comes in and battles White Vision and all that. And they just have like a huge brawl. But then Agnes battles Wanda all the way into the downtown area of Westview, and then Agnes lets everyone out of their supposed roles as sitcom people, and everyone just starts crying and screaming at Wanda, just saying like, hey, can you just let my family go? And it's very heartbreaking, actually. It's quite a dramatic thing right here. And then Wanda's just like, I don't even know what to do anymore. And then Agnes brings in the Necronomicon, which actually kind of contradicts some things with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. here. Because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had the Necronomicon in its show, and it looks different from this book. So what? Well, does that contradict Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Is that not canon anymore? We'll decipher that later on in this review. But anyway, Wanda does in fact bring back the giant beam in the sky because she opens up the barrier, allowing people to crawl out and, not get hurt anymore, which is good of her, but at the same time she did create it, so yeah. Anyway, as she opens it though, Billy, Tommy, and Vision, or Wanda's Vision, both or all three kind of start to disintegrate because you either got to choose between your family being disintegrated or the people being out of harm's way, I suppose. So she closes up the barriers again, like implementing them back into like full body type of thing, I guess. And then there's an Incredibles scene, an Incredibles pose of all the family just waiting to team up and just take down all these idiots. Agatha, White Vision, and Hayward, who made it into the barrier when it opened. I thought that was amazing. Just spot on, just beautiful. I knew Kevin Feige kind of put that in there, and I was like, oh, good, nice touch. Nice touch there. I really do enjoy that. But anyway, everyone starts to battle their own people and all that. Wanda battles Agnes, Vision battles White Vision, and the kids battle Hayward and his posse and all that. So let's dive into each individual sections. So here's what happens with Vision and White Vision. They battle each other, but Wanda's Vision actually notices that he can't overpower White Vision because they're matched pretty equally. So what he does instead is a battle of intellect. And this is something that kind of everyone's really talking about. It's something that really hasn't been implemented in Marvel up until this point. a battle of intellect, but it was actually really well done. There's a whole lot of different interesting philosophies kind of being thrown out of place, like this whole talk about the ship and how he had this old Greek mythological story here about how if you take apart a ship and you basically replace every single part of the ship, is it still the same ship? And I found that to be pretty interesting. And then Wanda's vision puts in like Wanda's vision's like memories and all that, which into white vision, and then white vision just disappears, not to be seen again until another Marvel thing later on down the road, which okay, good going there. You get the slam seal of approval on that. Very well done. Now on to the kids section. I'm going to include Ralph Boner, which is kind of the more disappointing part of this episode. We find out that Quicksilver from the X-Men universe is not actually Quicksilver from the X-Men universe. He's actually Ralph Boner, a actor that Agnes manipulated into thinking he was Quicksilver, but he's not. And yeah, I gotta say, that was pretty disheartening. That was really it was kind of a blow, I would say. It kind of let the air out of my hype train, if you catch my drift. But anyway, Monica Rambeau just knocks him out and all that and makes him remember who he is. Good going for her. She, using her powers, she goes over and helps out the kids who are kind of being overwhelmed by the Hayward's people, which, good going for her. You know, she's using all her powers, which I don't really understand how she could use, because there's one thing that she's like, you know, moving around all these bullets because she's, you know, powerful and all that, but how does she know how to use any of her powers? She just got them. Like, this is kind of rushed. If I had powers like this, I wouldn't know what to do. What the heck's up with this? But anyway, I guess the Speed, aka Tommy, helps out with transferring one of the bullets from the other people and all that. Good job, good going, Tommy. It's kind of a okay, I guess. And then Darcy comes back in, banging her truck into one of the things and all that. And there we go. That wraps up the end of that. But the real stuff, though, happens with Wanda and Agnes. Wanda tries to use her magic to put Agnes back in that little origin story that we saw from the previous episode, and we find out that Agnes overpowers her as well in that vision. So they start battling out superhero style, flying and all that type of stuff. And we find out that every movement, I guess, every power ball that Wanda throws at Agnes, she absorbs and all that, absorbs more of Wanda's powers. So Wanda kind of throws it to her sides and all that. She keeps on missing. But come to find out, you know, Wanda's kind of gray and kind of floating there for some reason. And at this point, I was like, how is she able to fly here when she doesn't have any more power? Like, she barely has any power or whatever. And then Agnes tries to suck it all in, and she can't. Why can't she, you may be asking? Well, that's because I forgot about the other episode where apparently, according to the laws of magic, there are specific symbols that are used from the Necronomicon, like in Doctor Strange, like specific symbols and all that, when you put it on a room or something within a boundary, no one else can use magic except for the person who puts the symbols on. And Wanda copied that and made gigantic symbols within the boundary of the world that Wanda created. So she's the only one that can use the powers. And then she has like this red crown that she was wearing in the 90s episode, like the 2000s episode or the Halloween episode, whatever. It's the Halloween episode, but the crown that she has in the comics, basically. And she has her full-blown, like, comics accurate super suit and all that, and she just wails at Agnes and just takes back all of her power, just wailing at her and destroying her and all that. And then in the finale, she makes Agnes act like a sitcom sidekick forever and ever, not allowing her to ever leave and become who she used to be, I guess. And that's basically it. Wanda just puts the kids to sleep. Wanda and Vision kind of have their own little goodbye thing, which is very potent, very well done, I should say. Little by little, her world is coming to an end, sucking it back in and all that, coming toward the house, and towards the final moments of that, Wanda and Vision have a very lovely time. It's gut-wrenching, actually. And yeah, the kids and Vision are no more. They're gone. Then Wanda comes out trying to not look at any of the citizens and all that. Darcy left for some reason. And Monica and Wanda kind of have their own little thing. And then Wanda leaves, goes in the mountains to study, and hears her boys kind of yelling in some background thing. And then she goes. That's it. What did I think about this? Well, I'll detail it. The good, the bad, and the confusing. So here we go. The good. Performances were great as always. I mean, what can I say? The heart of it was there. Beautiful, well done. Character pieces, very well done as well. I love the battles, the action set pieces and everything like that. If I had to rate them, it would be Visions, because we've never seen that ever happen in a Marvel thing where we had intellect fights. I found that to be really, really fascinating. Then I would choose Agnes and Wanda's fight. I thought that was pretty sweet. Marvel stuff. It is a Marvel-centric fight, but it was a really good fight, I gotta say. It was really, really good. And then Monica's whole thing, I would say that needed more development. That needed a lot more development than it got, because I don't really understand how she knew what to do. I also didn't really like the ending either. Wanda did something that was really, really disturbing and wrong, and she's allowed to go off and evade the law. I don't really get that. That's kind of, it doesn't really gel with me, in my opinion. That's not good. Even if she did have, emotions about Vision dying and all that, that doesn't excuse the fact that you had an entire New Jersey town under your spell doing your bidding. That's not good. You need to take responsibility for that, Wanda. I really